Bickley and Marotta mornings. Arizona sports. The local sports leader. Bickley Blast.
Skepticism has returned to the Valley, a new fear that the Cardinals may be in over their heads yet again. This is dangerous territory for a coaching staff and a quarterback who seem to be building a legitimate football war machine by the end of last season. Now, to be fair, Kyler Murray hasn't been bad, but in the past 2 weeks, he has produced 27 points while fully healthy, the lowest two-game stretch since his rookie season, and a struggle against a really bad Commanders defense was far worse than struggling with Cliff Kingsbury's offense. It's also a big week for Jonathan Gannon, Drew Petzing, and Nick Rallis, who have been humiliated for the very first time. Gannon and Rallis didn't seem to get the same physicality or fight out of their defense, and Petzing is under heat for the dinky-dunky game plans that are not unlocking Murray or their prized rookie receiver. Now, not all NFL games are built the same. Some inflict lasting damage, and the lopsided home loss to Washington clearly left quite a mark. And with road games at the 49ers and at Green Bay, any sudden vulnerabilities in this football team or any lack of internal belief might result in a couple of more blowouts. That would be problematic, since many experts tag the Cardinals as the surprise team to watch in 2024, and because Murray himself boldly told Cardinal fans to bet the over. If this team is 1-7 by the end of October, there will be a lot of unhappy fans and unhappy bettors. All right, today's Bickley Blast brought to you by my great friends at Chapman BMW, who make luxury attainable. Find them online at chapmanbmw.com.
A combination of both. I know that's kind of an easy answer, but I think that's true when you win as much as it is when you lose. Like every week you walk out off the field and say, we need to adjust this. This isn't good enough if we want to get to where we want to go. We want to tweak, change. I mean, that was true after the LA game, as it's going to be true after the Detroit game and the most recent game. So, I think that's always the case. I certainly believe in what we're doing, and a couple of things we've talked about give me confidence in what we're doing and who's doing it. So I don't see that as a major change moving forward week to week.
That's Drew Petzing, the offensive coordinator, asked the question yesterday by the media, do you need to play differently, or that execution word? A little bit of both. Look, we talked about the concerns on offense. Mm-hmm. I didn't expect to be having this many concerns offensively going into week 5. And certainly after week 2, there were no concerns. Obviously, the Buffalo game was uneven. It was very conservative. But after 2 weeks, the Cardinals were number 2 in the NFL in points scored. Mm-hmm. They've scored 27 total points in the last 2 weeks.
Yep.
That is a reason for concern. Yes, they've got a little bit of an injury issue at the right tackle spot, but overcome it. Mm-hmm. And you've still got a lot of talent out on the field, and it really hasn't come to the forefront.
No, listen, and at some point in time, the idea that you're rebuilding as a football team, it just doesn't wash with fans. It just doesn't. And the expectations are such that this team needs to stand and deliver this season, particularly Kyler Murray. And I've said it many times, and I get the feeling I'm going to be saying this many times more throughout the year. The referendum on Kyler Murray now is it has to be, he has got to begin his dalliance with greatness right here and now, or I'm convinced it's never going to happen. And if it's not going to happen, I am going to be eating a lot of crow with a lot of people who have been telling me for 5 years, this kid is not going to make it. And I've defended him every step of the way, and he seemed to have all the right, great body language going into this season. Now he's starting to get that dispirited look again. You've seen it a couple of times during these games, and it's just kind of the way he's built. So I hope what Jonathan Gannon said is right. I hope that they're not far off. You hear a sense of calm from Jonathan Gannon. You hear a sense of calm from Drew Petzing. I hope that translates to the field on Sunday, because they better be ready for a fight.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, being not far off felt a lot more realistic after their first 2 losses.
Yeah.
Because, yes, they lost, but they looked like they were right there with 2 really good teams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like as legitimate after that.
No.
blowout.
So when you take this season in its sum, you look at your body of work after 4 games, and you've got 4 very, very distinctly different performances. Week 1 against Buffalo, Cardinals were terrific for most of the first half. Buffalo got control of that game and won that thing going away. Okay, but it was close. Yep. So you put that on this shelf here. Week 2, fantastic performance that made me say that's a quarterback that can win a Super Bowl for you. That's way up here.
Week 2 was so good, it made week 1 feel better.
Yes, that's well said. That's exactly accurate. Then week 3, which was close on paper but didn't feel close, absorbing the game. And the key metrics of the game weren't close. Detroit dominated the line of scrimmage, time of possession, rushing yards, you name it. Okay. And then week 4, which was that debacle against the worst possible team to suffer a debacle against. Now, were the Commanders overly juiced for Cliff Kingsbury? Clearly. But that's what I expected the Cardinals to be for Kyler Murray.
Yeah, and that wasn't the case.
And that certainly didn't seem to be the case. Yeah. And even Kyle Vanden Bosch said, look, Bick, you called this the Cardinals team try hard. I didn't see a lot of trying hard against the Commanders.
And that leads me to where I'm going. Yeah, we're having all these conversations and concerns about the offense. Mm-hmm. I'm still pretty confident the offense is going to get better. We'll see. But I'm still, leaning towards confidence. It might not matter. Defensively, the Cardinals have issues. In the last 2 weeks, they have allowed opposing quarterbacks to complete 44 of 53 passes. That's 83%. Yeah. In the last 2 weeks, they've allowed opposing running attacks to roll up 400 yards on them. There's very little in terms of pressure on the quarterback. Mm-hmm. Outside of the Rams game, there's been almost none. There's very little in terms of pressure on receivers. These quarterbacks and receivers kind of have carte blanche to just move the ball down the field. Again, 83%. There's a lot going on defensively. They can't get off the field on third downs. Now, Nick Rawlis, he spoke to the media yesterday, and he focused on a lot of things, including the third down failures of the defense.
We got to get off the field a little bit more on third down. A lot of factors that play into that. Obviously, the more you can make that third and longer, the better. But also, ultimately, it's going to come down to what's the plan? Is the plan good, or did it need to be better? Are we executing if it was the right call, or are we not executing? So it's all those things of, week to week, set up the plan the right way and execute at a high level.
Yeah, and on why so many completions and so many yards?
That can be a case by case by the play. Whether that's we got to cover it better, or maybe the scheme said, you want to take away the big play and give them some air, and we got to bang, bang, get it down or disrupt the football. So it can depend on what they're doing and ultimately the scheme that you have up.
Yeah, big picture, Bick. I mean, and this is rocket science that I'm throwing at you right here. Mm-hmm. The Cardinals aren't beating anybody scoring 13 or 14 points.
No.
That needs to be like north of 28 to have a chance week in, week out.
You laid it out there perfectly. It's easier said than done to get your defense off the field. You've got to have a secondary that can come up with big plays when you need them. And so far, these cornerbacks, aside from Max Melton, who graded out pretty good last week, mm-hmm. the cornerback room. And Garrett Williams had a nice interception. I'm not going to
really nice
begrudge him that, but it just looks too easy. It looked too easy for Jared Goff. It looks too easy. It looked way too easy for Jaden Daniels.
Yes, and I expressed my fatigue level on the Phoenix weather earlier this week. Mm-hmm. There's another fatigue level going on, and it's with Cardinals fans because the losing is just getting old at this point. In their last 31 games, the Cardinals are 6-25. If you go back to the A.J. Green game, mm-hmm. the Cardinals were 7-0 with a chance to win it on that play. Since that time, they are 13-36.
Ooh, that's almost 13. That's a winning percentage of 26%. Wow. Yeah, listen, I think you're absolutely right about that because, I've got the emails to prove it as well. People are, when I say skepticism is back in the air, it is. because this team has done a lot of losing over the arc of history, and this is a long stretch of losing. And it's got to end. The rebuilding, you can't rebuild forever.
How's this going to feel if this is another blowout this week?
That's my point. That's the danger. If there's another blowout this week, I can't even imagine what it's going to sound like.
Well, look at the scores against San Francisco during this run of losses. Last year, they lose 45-29, and that was a positive. That was the game where John Lynch was crediting the Cardinals for how hard they played. Yeah. Before that, where's the next one? 35-16, 38-13, 38-10. That's the last 4 games against the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
And that's a team that's trying to get right itself.
That's right. Yeah. So there's going to have to be complete belief, complete physicality. They're going to have to match them blow for blow. And that's a tough ask, but they're going to have to do it.
Thanks for watching Bickley and Marotta. Click to see the latest Bickley Blast and hit the button in the middle to subscribe to Arizona Sports.